All right, I'd like to call to order the Wetlands Board meeting for Wednesday, February 14th. The responsibility of this board is to carry out locally the Commonwealth policy to preserve the wetlands and to accommodate economic activity so as to prevent their despoliation. Could I get a roll call, please, Mr. Wilson?
Mr. Roadley? Here. Mr. O'Brien? Here. Mr. May? Here. Ms. Bowie?
Here.
Mr. Waltrip is absent.
Thank you, sir. Has everyone had a chance to review the meetings from the December 13th board meeting? Any suggested changes or amendments to those meetings? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes from the December 13th, 2023 as presented.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next set of minutes, the January 29th work session. Anyone have any amendments to those
No, sir.
minutes? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes from January 29th, 2024 as presented.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next on the agenda, the public comment period. The public comment period offers a chance for community members to express their opinions. Topics discussed shall not be directly related to specific public hearing items. To participate, speakers must provide their name and address for the record. Are there anyone from the public that wishes to address the board? Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Now we'll move on to the public hearings. The outline for tonight's public hearings will be a staff presentation followed by questions or clarifications from the board. Then the public hearing will be opened. At that time, anybody wishing to speak may do so once called upon by the chair. All public speakers must state their name and address for the record. Presentations before the board are subject to time limits. After everyone wishing to speak has done so and discussion among the board members has concluded, the public hearing will be closed. And the first item on the agenda is 111 Shellbank Drive. Ms. Benedict.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Robin Benedict, Watershed Planner, presenting WJPA 23-0012. Mr. Daniel Winall with Water's Edge Construction has applied for a wetlands permit on behalf of Mr. George and Ms. Brenda White for the extension of an existing riprap breakwater on property located at 111 Shellbank Drive within the James River watershed. The subject parcel is outlined above in blue, and the watershed is shown within the yellow boundary. Here is aerial photography of the site. You'll see the existing break, as well as topography at the site and floodplain as it affects this property. The applicants are proposing to construct a 40 linear foot expansion on the existing 60-foot breakwater structure. As this site plan is currently presented above, it's not 100% accurate with current site conditions, and by that, the existing groin that's shown here in dark blue butts up against the end or the beginning of the existing breakwater. This is better reflected in the photos that will be shown in a moment, and revised drawings will be required as a condition of this permit. Just wanted to make you all aware, but that does not change the impacts as proposed for this project. This existing 60-foot breakwater here in blue is currently insufficient, and there is migration of the existing beach fill that's back here behind that breakwater. The proposed extension shown here in yellow will eliminate the migration of this beach fill and help combat shoreline erosion on the property. The construction of this extension will not have any impacts on vegetated wetlands, but it will result in impacts to approximately 600 square feet of non-vegetated wetlands. Here is a cross-section of the proposed extension with mean high and mean low water shown by these lines. So here is site photography. Again, this is that existing groin, and that is going to be removed, and then the extension will go from the existing breakwater to the existing shoreline revetment. And this is just imagery of that existing breakwater structure. And looking back towards the existing revetment, you can see areas where the beach fill is migrating and there is some failure of this structure. And another view of some of those areas of concern. As published in the Virginia Register on July 11th, 2005, the revised Wetland Mitigation Compensation Policy and Supplemental Guidelines, Regulation 4 VAC, Virginia as a Chesapeake Bay program partner is committed to achieve a no net loss of existing wetlands acreage and function in the signatories' regulatory programs. In order for a proposed project to be authorized to impact wetlands and compensate for the wetland loss in some prescribed manner, the following 3 criteria must be met. All reasonable mitigative efforts, including alternative siting, which would eliminate or minimize wetland loss or disturbance, must be incorporated into the proposal. The proposal must clearly be water dependent in nature, and the proposal must demonstrate its need to be in the wetlands and its overwhelming public and private benefits. If the proposed project cannot meet one or more of the above criteria, the project must be denied or must occur in areas outside of wetlands. Should it satisfy all 3 criteria, however, compensation for the wetland loss is required. The sequence of acceptable mitigation options should be as follows: on-site, off-site within the same watershed, mitigation banks in the same watershed, or a payment of an in lieu fee. If compensation is required, it should be a condition of the permit. Staff has reviewed this application and finds that this project meets the 3 criteria outlined above. There are no vegetated impacts to wetlands associated with this project, therefore there is no mitigation required. Staff has reviewed the above application and recommends approval. Should the board wish to approve this application, staff suggests the following conditions be incorporated into the approval. The applicants must obtain all other necessary federal, state, and local permits as required for the project. This includes the submittal of an erosion and sediment control plan outlining the construction access and all proposed upland work outside of the Wetlands Board jurisdiction. A land disturbing permit and surety may be required as well. All development activities located in the specified flood hazard area shall comply with Article 6, Division 3 Floodplain Area Regulations of the James City County Zoning Ordinance and receive all required approval and permits prior to the commencement of such activities. The applicant must submit revised drawings clarifying the width of the extension, a revised location of the existing breakwater, and a revised cross-section prior to the start of the project. The wetlands permit for this project shall expire on February 14th, 2027, and if an extension of the permit is needed, a written request must be submitted to the Stormwater and Resource Protection Division no later than January 3rd, 2027, which is 6 weeks prior to the expiration date. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Benedict. Any questions for Ms. Benedict?
No, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Benedict.
Thank you.
I'd like to open up the public comment period. Is there anyone from the public that wish to speak? Please apply your name and address, please, for the record.
Yeah, Danny Winall with Waters Edge Construction, Toanna, Virginia. I'm the agent and the contractor for the project, here to answer any questions y'all may have.
Anyone have any questions for?
So the previous 60 feet was approved by the board?
Yeah, that breakwater's been there for 20 years or better. I did not do it, somebody else did it.
Okay.
But yeah, we're proposing to extend that to shore to stop the migration of the sand. That's pretty common down in the area. We've had to do it on a few others out there.
Fairly straightforward from my perspective, so no questions.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? All right, seeing or hearing none, I will close the public comment period and the matters before the board.
Yeah, I concur with Mr. Rodley.
This appears to be a pretty straightforward application.
I agree.
All right. Is there a motion?
Motion to adopt the resolution to grant the permit request for Wetlands Board Case WJPA 23-0012 at 111 Shellbank Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Rodley.
So we have a motion to adopt. Mr. Rodley,
Yes?
Mr. O'Brien, Yes. Ms. Bowie? Mr. May? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to board considerations, there was a 2024 calendar amendment to move the Wednesday, November 13th meeting date to Thursday, November 14th. Does anyone have any comments on that?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a motion on that item?
Motion to approve the amendment to the 2024 calendar as presented.
Thank you. Do we need a voice vote on that? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. The Wednesday, November 13th meeting is moved to Thursday, November 14th. Seeing there are no matters of special privilege, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion's adjourned.
February 14, 2024 Chesapeake Bay Board meeting. The responsibility of this board is to carry out locally the Commonwealth policy to protect against and minimize pollution and deposition of sediment in wetlands, streams, and lakes in James City County, excuse me, which are tributaries to the Chesapeake Bay. Roll call, Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Roadley?
Here.
Mr. O'Brien?
Here.
Mr. May? Ms. Bowie?
Here.
Mr. Waltrip is absent.
We have the minutes from the January 10, 2024 regular meeting. Any changes or additions?
No, sir.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented from the January 10th meeting.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. We also have minutes from the January 29, 2024 work session. Any changes or additions?
No, sir.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes from January 29, 2024 as presented.
All those in favor of the motion to approve?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Hearing none. Move on to the public comment period. The public comment period offers a chance for community members to express their opinions. Topics discussed shall not be directly related to the public hearing items. To participate, speakers must provide their name and address for the record. So I will open the public comment period. Does anybody wish to address the board? Hearing none, I will close the public comment period and will proceed on to public hearings. The outline for tonight's public hearings will be a staff presentation followed by any questions or clarifications from the board. Then the public hearing will be opened. At that time, anybody wishing to speak may do so once called upon by the chair. All public speakers must state their name and address for the record. Presentations before the board are subject to time limits. After everyone wishing to speak has done so, the discussion amongst the board has concluded. The public hearing will be closed. First item on the agenda, CBPA 23-0183 at 275 Old Stage Road. Ms. Benedict.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, on your board guides, this got flip-flopped with the next case, just as an FYI. So this is just an update on the case that was heard before the board last month. The applicants made some revisions to that site plan, took into consideration some of the comments that they heard, and removed all the impacts from within the RPA, which is this red line here. They will now be using retaining walls as shown in these yellow areas, which eliminates all grading within the resource protection area. Therefore, this project, this area of the project is no longer within Chesapeake Bay Board's purview and is withdrawn. But if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Just for clarity, Ms. Benedict, the case that you just referred to is CBPA 23-0174 at 9400 Barnes Road.
No, sir. Things got a little bit.
So this is Old Stage Road.
This is case number 23-0184 at 275 Old Stage Road, but it is no longer by the board's consideration.
Yep.
This is just an update for you all.
Any questions from the board to Ms. Benedict?
This was that first building as you go in on the left?
Yes, sir.
Hearing no questions, I will close the public hearing that was left open last month. Mr. Wilson?
You may want to just see if there's anybody who'd like to still speak
Oh,
on the matter.
certainly. Apologize. Public hearing is still open. Would anybody care to address the board on this case? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing, and the matter is, no votes necessary, so the matter is behind us. So I assume now we are at 23-0174 at 9400 Barnes Road.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Robin Benedict, Watershed Planner. This is for CBPA 23-0174 at 9400 Barnes Road. Mr. Ben Swift with Lovett Industrial has requested a 2-month deferral of this application for exception to the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Ordinance while the site plan is finalized for the project. Staff concurs with this request. As this case has been public noticed, staff recommends that the public hearing be opened and stay open until the April 10th, 2024 meeting, at which time the case will be heard.
Thank you. Will you be presenting the case notes for this or not at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay. With that, I will open the public hearing to solicit comment from anybody wishing to provide comment to the board to enter it into the record. Anybody wishing to address this case this evening? Hearing none, since we are not having a presentation, the public hearing will remain open until April 10th. So anybody wishing to submit comments may do so between now and then. Otherwise, we'll have a motion to accept the deferral request.
Motion to accept the deferral request for CBPA 23-0174.
Motion to accept the deferral request. Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Ms. Bowie? Yes. Mr. Roadley? Yes. Deferrals passed.
Item on the agenda is CBPA 23-0182 at 9935 Walnut Creek.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Emily Grogine, Watershed Planner, presenting CBPA 23-0182. Mr. Paul and Mrs. Cynthia Puglia have applied for a Chesapeake Bay exception for encroachments into the RPA buffer for the installation of a walkway between an existing deck and an existing driveway, and includes a 14-foot diameter seating area and driveway pad extension located at 9935 Walnut Creek within the Stonehouse subdivision and Ware Creek watershed. You'll see the parcel outlined in blue up here, and as you can see outlined in yellow, it is within the Ware Creek watershed boundary. This is the subject parcel, the proposed area of work, along with the existing topography and the current RPA. The total lot size of this property is 0.72 acres, of which 58% is located within the RPA. The applicants are proposing to install a walkway between an existing deck and an existing driveway pad extension, and 14-foot diameter seating area. A previous exception for the existing deck was approved under CBPA 22-0143 on December 14th, 2022. Total impacts to the RPA associated with this proposal equate to 469 square feet of impacts to the landward 50-foot RPA buffer. Required mitigation for this amount of impervious impacts equals 13 shrubs. As you can see, this is the existing driveway, along with that existing deck that was approved under a previous exception, as well as the proposed mitigation plantings in addition to the ones already fulfilled under that previous exception. The proposed work is highlighted in here in yellow. As you can see here, there's that parking pad expansion along with the proposed walkway, seating area, and continued walkway between that seating area and existing deck. Here we are standing within that existing driveway, kind of looking out to where that expansion for the driveway is going to be, flagged out here. Turn to our right from where we were standing, you can see where that proposed walkway from that extension to the seating area will be here. And then back out and look at everything from a side profile. You see again that extension for the driveway along with the walkway. There's that existing deck back there with the seating area and expanded walkway between that seating area and existing deck to your left. And then again, just to give you a better view of the parking pad driveway extension here. Staff has evaluated the application and exception request for the installation of a walkway between an existing deck and an existing driveway and includes a 14-foot diameter seating area and driveway pad extension. This application meets the ordinance conditions in sections 23-11 and 23-14 and should be heard by the board because the installation of a walkway and driveway pad extension is considered accessory in nature. The board may grant exceptions to 23-7 if the application meets the following 5 conditions. The exception request is the minimum necessary to afford relief. Granting the exception will not confer upon the applicants any special privileges denied to other property owners similarly situated in the vicinity. The exception request will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of Chapter 23 and is not of substantial detriment to water quality. The exception request is not based on conditions or circumstances that are self-created or self-imposed. Reasonable and appropriate conditions are imposed which will prevent the exception request from causing a degradation of water quality. Staff has reviewed the application and has determined the impacts associated with the proposal to be minor for the proposed development. Staff recommends approval, and if the board wishes to approve the request, staff recommends the following conditions be incorporated into the approval. The applicants must obtain all other necessary federal, state, and local permits as required for the project. Applicants must submit a surety of $500 in a form acceptable to the James City County Attorney's Office to guarantee the mitigation plantings of 9 shrubs. And this exception request approval will become null and void if construction has not begun by February 14th, 2025. Written request for an extension to an exception must be submitted to the Stormwater and Resource Protection Division no later than January 3rd, 2025, which is 6 weeks prior to the expiration date. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Could you go back to the plan view drawings, please?
Yes.
I'm having a little trouble with reading it, but is there a retaining wall adjacent to the seating area?
So the retaining wall is more so a decorative wall.
Oh.
So there won't be any sort of fill or nothing's actually being retained.
Like a seating wall.
Yes, sir.
Is there any proposed infiltration or other means to control runoff proposed other than the plantings that we see in the image?
No, sir. But the way that the topography currently is on the site, it's fairly flat where that yard and area is.
Yes. Thank you. Any other questions for staff?
Will the material for the driveway pad extension be the same as the existing driveway?
I believe so. That question to the homeowner, I believe was.
Thank you. We'll open the public hearing. Would anyone like to address this matter before the board? Good evening.
Paul Puglia, 9935 Walnut Creek.
Excellent.
And just to answer your question, the materials that are going to be used in there are going to be pavers. They're going to be concrete pavers. The existing driveway is an exposed aggregate. And what we've tried to do is we tried to blend. I couldn't get concrete guys to do 3.5 yards of concrete, so we went with the pavers in that area instead. Any other questions?
Is that just to accommodate vehicle turning radius and so forth, or is?
Yeah, it's when my wife tries to back out of the driveway right now, out of the garage. It's just a tight area.
Gotcha. Yeah. Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anybody else care to address the board on this matter? Any discussion amongst the board?
I agree with the county's, or the staff's recommendation regarding the minor impact, and I would be in support of this request.
Any other thoughts from the board? Very good. Any other comments from the audience? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. The matter is before the board.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to adopt the resolution to grant the exception request for Chesapeake Bay Board case number CBPA-23-0182 at 9935 Walnut Creek.
Mr. Wilson?
Motion is to adopt. Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Ms. Bowie? Yes. Mr. Roadley?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Next item on the agenda is CBPA 23-0167 at 112 Sugarbush. Construction of a single-family dwelling.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Robin Benedict, Watershed Planner, presenting CBPA 23-0167. Mr. Chase Grogg with Landtech Resources has applied for a Chesapeake Bay exception on behalf of Mr. Paul Koskek and Ms. Karen Savage for encroachments into the RPA buffer for the construction of a single-family dwelling located at 112 Sugarbush within the Ford's Colony subdivision and the Powhatan Creek watershed. The parcel is outlined here in blue and the Powhatan Creek watershed here in yellow. This parcel was platted in 1997 after the adoption of the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Ordinance in 1990. The RPA affected this lot with the 2004 revisions to the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Area. Here is aerial photography of the parcel, as well as the topography on the lot and the resource protection area on the lot. The total lot size is 1.18 acres, of which 100% is within the RPA. And additionally, here is a BMP pathway, again, from the parcel outlined here in blue. It drains to wetlands behind the lot and further through that wetland system behind the subdivision. The applicants are proposing to construct a single-family dwelling with an attached garage. Total impacts to the RPA associated with this proposal equate to 2,359 square feet of impacts to the landward 50-foot RPA and 3,002 square feet of impacts to the seaward 50-foot RPA, for a total of 5,361 square feet of impacts. This is the overall parcel shown above, with the edge of wetlands in green, and then the 100-foot and 50-foot RPA buffers. Zooming in a little bit closer to the proposed house, again, the 100-foot and 50-foot RPA, as well as that wetland line. The area in yellow is the area within the landward 50-foot, which again is 2,359 square feet. And then the area in orange is within the seaward, which was 3,002 square feet. Additionally, on this site plan, the blue are the building setback lines. This black squiggly line is the limits of clearing, and the applicants are also proposing 2 infiltration trenches, which are shown here in pink. The minimum first floor square footage required for this section of Ford's Colony for a single-story home is 2,000 square feet. This proposed residence has a first floor square footage equal to 2,268 square feet, which is a 13% increase. Required mitigation for this amount of impervious cover impacts equals 14 planting units, which are 14 canopy trees, 28 understory trees, and 42 shrubs. The applicants have provided a mitigation plan that consists of the purchase of 3 credits into the James City County Mitigation Fund, and then the planting of the remaining 11 units on the property. That's in the equivalent of 3 canopy trees, 13 understory trees, and 83 shrubs shown above. Therefore, this mitigation plan satisfies county requirements. additionally, they have the 2 infiltration trenches, again, shown there in pink. Staff are also requesting that an affidavit be recorded in the Williamsburg, James City County Courthouse due to the environmental sensitivity of this lot. Here is site photography, standing in the street and looking towards the entrance of this lot. Moving a little further back where the driveway will be placed. Here you can see a front of house stake looking across the lot. And again, more flagging and staking this towards the back of the house. This is looking out towards the wetlands behind or at the rear of this property. And again, just a different view, wetlands flagging in pink here. This is looking up the slope towards the neighboring lot. And then looking back towards the street, basically at that back wetlands line. Staff has evaluated the application and exception request for the construction of a single-family dwelling. This application meets the ordinance conditions in sections 23-11 and 23-14 and should be heard by the board because the construction of the single-family dwelling extends into the seaward 50-foot RPA. The board may grant exceptions to section 23-7 if the application meets the following 5 conditions. The exception request is the minimum necessary to afford relief. Granting the exception will not confer upon the applicants any special privileges denied to other property owners in the vicinity. The exception, The exception request will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of Chapter 23 and is not of substantial detriment to water quality. The exception request is not based on conditions or circumstances that are self-created or self-imposed, and reasonable conditions are imposed which will prevent the exception request from causing a degradation of water quality. Staff has reviewed this application and exception request and has determined the impacts associated with the proposal to be major for the proposed development. If the board wishes to approve this request, staff recommends the following conditions be incorporated into the approval. The applicants must obtain all other necessary federal, state, and local permits as required for the project. An affidavit must be recorded in the Williamsburg, James City County Courthouse prior to the issuance of a building permit. The applicants must submit a surety of $8,250 and a form acceptable to the James City County Attorney's Office to guarantee the mitigation plan equaling 11 planting units. The applicants must submit a payment of $3,000 into the James City County Mitigation Fund for the purchase of 3 credits prior to the issuance of a building permit. The applicants must install a 6-foot chain link fence along the limits of clearing to reduce impacts to adjacent wetlands. This exception request approval will become null and void if construction has not begun by February 14th, 2025, and any written request for an extension must be submitted to the Stormwater and Resource Protection Division no later than January 3rd, 2025, which is 6 weeks prior to the expiration date. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Any questions for staff?
Just show me the building envelope at the beginning.
Sure.
How much is cleared?
So this looks at the overall, and then that blue line is the building setback, and then the black line being the limits of clearing.
The chain link fence that you said needs to be installed, is that just temporary during construction, then will be removed?
Yes, just to prevent them from over clearing and
Encroaching into-
encroaching into those wetlands.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And you did reference that the minimum square footage in this section of Ford's Colony, it's 2,000 square feet, and we're at about 2268.
Yes, sir.
Very good, thank you. I will open the public hearing. Would anyone care to address the board?
Good evening, members of the board. Chase Grog with Land Tech Resources. Nice to see you. 205 Bullifonts Boulevard, Suite E, Williamsburg, Virginia. With this one, we started off working very closely with Forts Colony, trying to place this house. Basically, you can see that the landward and seaward 50 feet create kind of a V shape, try to place this house as much in the landward side as we could with placing it up kind of in the middle of this property, as well as Ford's Colony prefers driveways be 10 feet off the property line. You can get down to as close as 5, and we were able to get a variance of going all the way to 3 feet, so that helped us keep this house as far left as possible. During that time as well, the neighbor to the right, Mr. Detweiler, who is here this evening as well, raised some concerns about drainage going down with this lot. Basically, we're taking all the front to our neighbor's left water, and then all of our water drains to the right as well. There's this one kind of gully or low spot here where all of our front water sheet flows into, and then the rest of it goes into the back. But in the end, all coming over to Mr. Detweiler, through a creek in the back and then into the pond system. So when those concerns were raised, originally we had another infiltration trench up here. But in thinking through trying to direct some of this water away from the resource, as well as Mr. Detweiler's property, there's going to be a berm that gets placed along this low side and a swale that's going to capture pretty much all of our impervious water is going to get captured through this swale down on this low side, as well as then the swale that comes around the back and gets directed to the 2 infiltration trenches.
How high is the berm?
The berm is going to be 1 foot. So these infiltration trenches are going to be 3 feet deep and 3 feet wide, filled with stone, and have 3 catch basins placed in, or this front one's going to have 3 catch basins, and this back one's going to have 2 catch basins. Allows the water to get inside into the pipe. Looking at the USDA soils map, this whole high side is all a B soil when it comes to hydraulic, as well as I went out there and took a soil boring, and it's like play sand. My daughters would have a good time with that. Can you go back to the BMP map, Mike? Yeah, go back. So unfortunately, this is inaccurate, and we might have to go back to the other one. So this site all drains left to right. So like some of the other ones that we've worked on in Ford's Colony, this is the first pond. So there's a creek that comes down here and is the feature that makes the rest of this side of Ford's Colony the RPA feature that it is. So our water actually leaves our site and comes to the right. So, we have the 2 on-site infiltration basins, and then during a good flush, or if those get overtaxed, they go over those, and then they flow through 4 different on-site BMPs within Ford's Colony before they ever get to the resource. So the water from this property, for unlike some of the other ones we get to work on, actually has a lot of time for treatment prior to getting to the resource, as well as with those infiltration basins, directing that water around. There's a lot of time for sheet flow on the property, again, before the resource on our property, as well as kind of the final resource downstream. As staff also pointed out, able to plant about 11, we're planting 11 mitigation plantings on site and only having 3 off-site credits purchased. So I think what we're bringing to the table for this particular property, being able to treat, pretty much 95%, if not a little bit higher, of all of our impervious area, as well as being able to plant a majority of the mitigation on site, brings a lot of good qualities to this project. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Grog?
So was the desire to, or the fact that you have 11 planting units versus 14 more a function of having some open space? Because it looks like you could get 3 more planting units in there.
Function of grading. So I think trying to jam all of that, with existing woods that are canopy that's already there, as well as then, this is pretty much a 3-to-1 to 4-to-1 slope that then comes down. I don't know that we really want to plant on top of this berm, as well as the water has to be able to go at some point. So I think being able to efficiently stabilize this slope and get the water around. I mean, most of what's not getting planted is where our swales are, just so the water will be able to go, not through mulch.
So the 1-foot berm is sufficient to keep the water and directed towards the infiltration trenches and not over to the neighbor's property?
Yeah, so all this water will come down here, and like I said, there's the catch basins here, so it will quickly go into the pipes, but during a good rainstorm, it will pond, basically a foot along this whole low side, and then this basically in essence is going to primarily serve as a couple big vegetated level spreaders where the water will sheet flow over the top. So it will not be, we're greatly reducing the amount of water going to this portion of the property. You know, the stream goes through the back. I can't make water go uphill. I would love to, but so we are redirecting it, you know, away from the house and kind of more towards the main channel, and then into the BMP.
Thank you.
So do you have an under drain or bottom drain for these? No?
So these particular ones don't require an under drain. They're actually, we've shown that detail a couple times. It's the detail that's actually from York County. But with it being a good sandy soil, hydraulic, I don't see any issues with infiltration down in there.
Any O&M issues for the landowners down the road?
No, that's another reason I actually prefer these over some of those other kind of what I call more commercial style BMPs, with these being the 3 catch basins. The pipes may have to be, you know, cleaned out a little bit, but other than that, it's just lawn over top, so they're able to mow it, don't have to worry about compacting mulch and all the other plantings and keeping all that alive. So I think it's a much simpler solution for the homeowner, long-term wise.
Yep. Any other questions for Mr. Grogg?
Yeah, one last one. Were the proposed infiltration trenches as there for mitigation for the 2,300 square feet in excess of 2,000? Or would, even if it was 2,000 square foot first floor, you'd still have the infiltration in there?
No, I will say that I view those as a way, you know, knowing that we're over top of that square footage, that it is, you know, a
Mitigation.
yeah, it's a mitigation for that extra square footage.
Any other questions?
Especially since there's the other 4 BMPs down the way.
Thank you, Mr. Grogg.
Thank you.
Anybody else care to address the board on this matter? Hearing none, discussion amongst the board.
Mr. Chair, I think I would be in support of this application with, you know, they are above and beyond the minimum square footage for that area in the neighborhood by about 13%. I know we have been trying very hard to stick very closely to the minimum necessary to afford relief. However, we have considered additional mitigation techniques, as Mr. Groggs explained, with the 2 infiltration trenches, and that also that berm to help direct water towards them. So I would be in support of this application.
Thank you. Anybody else care to comment? Hearing none, any additional comments from the public? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. The matter is before the board. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to adopt the resolution to grant the exception request for Chesapeake Bay Board case number CBPA-23-0167 at 112 Sugar Bush.
Motion is to adopt. Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. May,
Yes.
Ms. Bowie, Mr. Roadley. Motion passes 4-0.
Next item on the agenda is board considerations. Looks like an extension request for 23-0009 at 109 Mercar.
Chairman, members of the board, Emily Grogine, Watershed Planner. Mr. Chase Grogg of Land Tech Resources Incorporated, on behalf of Mr. Gino Godwin and Ms. Judith Alicia, is requesting a 1-year extension to CBPA 23-0009, originally granted on March 8th, 2023. Staff concurs with this request with the stipulation that all permit conditions except for the expiration date be reauthorized and that the new date of expiration be March 8th, 2025.
Any questions from the board? If not, can I have a motion?
Motion to accept the extension request for Chesapeake Bay Board case number CBPA 23-0009 at 109 Mercar.
Motion to accept the extension request. Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. May,
Yes.
Ms. Bowie, Mr. Roadley. Motion passes 4-0.
Next item on the agenda is the 2024 calendar amendment. Wednesday, November 13th. Meeting date moved to Thursday, November 14th. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the amendment to the 2024 calendar is presented.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Seeing no matters of special privilege, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.